Hey friends and everyone, welcome back to Netcode-Hub channel. I'm Frederick and I'm happy to have you here today. In this video, we are going to talk about API versioning. So how do you integrate versioning in your API? That is .NET Web API application. First of all, what actually is API version? API version in .NET refers to the practice of managing different versions of an API to ensure backward compatibility whilst introducing new features or making changes. This is very crucial for maintaining stable interfaces between client and servers, especially in the scenarios where multiple versions of the same API may be in use simultaneously. So let's say you have an API and within a couple of days you want to upgrade this API. This API is live and is being used by many clients. You cannot shut down the API whilst you make an update, right? So what we're going to do here is you have to version the old API as maybe V1, V2, V3. Then you start working on the new features that you want to integrate. Now, when you are done, you also version the current API that you're working on. And if it is your controller that you're working on, you can also apply this version too. So how do you do this in .NET Web API? And that is what we're going to have a look today. Now, there are several approaches of API versioning, and some of these approaches include URL versioning, we have query parameter versioning, we have header versioning, we have media type versioning, we have semantic versioning, and content negotiation. Now, with all these versions, we're going to talk about the first two, and that is the URL version and query parameter version. URL version, in this approach, the version number is included in the URL path, and I believe you've seen some before. That is where you have an API / maybe user / v1, v2, v3, and that is a version 1, version 2, version 3. That is the URL version. Now I talk about the query parameter version. It is whereby you pass the query parameter, you pass the version as a query parameter, okay, as a query string. So maybe you have your question mark, and maybe API version equal to 1, API version equal to 2, and you can also do that to version API. Let's have a look at a practical example for you to understand what I'm talking about. So launch of Visual Studio 2022 or higher, and now we're going to create a project in Web API, and I'm going to name it as Demo Web API. When I'm done with this video, the source code is available at GitHub, so check the video description if you want to grab it and review. You can also do that from there. So I have my Visual Studio 2022 launch. Click on Create New Project. And here I'm going to choose ASP Netcode Web API. The name is going to be Demo API Versioning. So I have this and I have the location set already. So I'm going to click on Framework of 8.0. Then let's create this project. Now, in order to work with version, we have some packages that we need to install. We have to install 2 new packages. Now, what are these packages? These packages are asp.version.mvc, and also we have asp.version.mvc.api explorer. So we're going to install these packages to our application. I have the package references here, so I need not to install them anymore, but for you got to install them. So these are the packages that you need to install. Pause the video and I get them installed. So when I'm done, I'm going to right click and go to Reload Project with Dependencies to get these packages included in the project. Okay, now let's see. In order to use the version, the first of all we're going to do here is we're going to register service for that. You know, we've installed some packages, so we have to register some services to handle this. So this is a service that we need to use. There are a lot of configuration that you can make, but let's actually work on or tackle the basic one. Okay, so we have API versioning, and as you can see from here, we have build out services. I think we have to build this project again to get the package that we installed. Get it fixed. Okay, so let's build this project. Right click and now build solution. Yeah, that's fine. So we're going to add the API version service, and that is what we are doing right away from here. You can see that we install 2 packages, and one is for the Explorer. We have it in here, and we have one for the ASP.versioning, and that is what you have in here. So as you can see from this, we have to specify some options, and the first option that we're doing here is assume default version when unspecified. So we're going to have maybe 2 versions or 3 versions, version 1 up to version 3, and version 1 defaultly going to be the default one, isn't it? Yeah. So if the user does not specify the version, then we want to actually assign to the default one, that's the version 1. So that's what we set this is true. So if you don't want to do that, you can set this to false. Then we're going to have this API version set to default and report API versions. So true. So let's say you have 3 versions now, version 1, 2, 3. We want to report it. So version 1, version 2, version 3. So API versions are available. You want to report them. So we're going to set this to true as well. And now from here, we're going to have the group format, and it could be V1, V capital or lowercase, uppercase or lowercase. So we're going to specify that as V either in capital or either lowercase in here. Okay, and that is what we are having in there. All right, then after registering that service, what else can we do? Let's go to application. Now from here, our solution rather, I'm going to delete this controller, and I have the same controller in here. By this time round, I have created 3 folders, and now these folders I've named them as version 1, version 2, version 3. You see here we are talking about versions, so we have to organize our work well. Okay, so we have version 1, version 2, version 3. Now from the version 1, see what I did. Now you see it is the same thing as you can see from here, that this time around, this is a demo. Let me use. All right, so that is a project name, and you can see from here version 1, we have this API version. So this is an attribute that you can specify, and now this is coming from using ASP.versioning. Now within that, you specify this as version 1, so this becomes automatically the default version. Okay. Now, as you can see from here we are specifying the V version in here. But for now, we can just remove it. Let's assume we are not specifying any version. We want to see whether it's going to hit on the default version. So with this, we are tackling the second approach, that is using the query string in the API version. You can see here we are not using the URL version, so we are not specifying any V here. Okay. So we are specifying only the route you can see from here. Now we go to the same from V2, and now we are going to do same. And I'm going to remove this one. And here you can see this is a version 2. Now we go to the version 3. And I'm going to remove this. And now here, this is going to be the version 3. That's what we need to do. Let's change this to the project name. That is all. Okay, now let's run this and check this out. Now you can see the endpoint is ready, and as you can see from this, we created 3 same controller. That's a weather forecast controller, 3 of them. And within the 3, which one are we seeing here? This is a default one, and the default one is happening on the first one. That is the version 1. Now the version 1, you can see from here, we have to specify the version. And this coming with a query string. So you have version 1, version 2, version 3. If you do not specify any version, according to the settings that we made, it is navigating us to the default one. And the default one here, it is a V1. So this is a V1. This is a V1. And on V1 here, it is duplicated. So maybe we've done this already and we've upgraded it. And now the V1, we don't want to remove it absolutely. We rather want to leave it there, and I'll tell the user that, well, this is duplicated. So please, can you move to or update to the V2? So we can do that. If you want to do that, this is what you need to add in here to make it work. So from here, we're going to click on this straight ahead. Now let's try to execute this. This is going to fall up to the default one. We are not specifying any version here, and we are using, you can see this is the default one, and that is the V1. So when you check the response header, you can see we have an API deprecated version of 1.0, And these are the available supported version 2.0 and now 3.0. Okay, so here we are having the view 1. We can also specify this in this format. Let's say we're going to specify the one in here, click on execute, and you can see we have the same thing. Here we are specifying, or we are getting the version 1. Then with this, we are going to specify, let's specify version 2. So this is version 2. And now from version 2, you can see we have this, and I am giving up to 10. So version 2, and we can also specify version 3. So for version 3, we need to, I think, I included a parameter so we can add more range. So range, and I'm going to specify maybe 100. Then API, specify the version at the end of the URL. And you can see from here we have 100 range from that what we have in here. And now this is coming from what? API version 3. So you can see that it's the same controller, but we're able to manipulate it using the query string. Yes, aside from doing this, we can also implement the URL. And that is what I did earlier on. So I'm going to revert this back to what we have already. And now within this one, you can see here we are specifying the route. Since we want to specify the version to the URL, we are specifying the v and are passing the version. The version here is obviously the value that we have in here from this attribute. So this is going to be version 1. And I want to check out this is going to be version 2, and that's going to be version 3. Okay. And now let's save this and let's run this up and check it out. Yeah, so you can see that from here too, we have this URL version, and now with this, you are specifying the version number in here. So if you want to call this endpoint, you must make sure that you have this version number included in the URL. So you can see from here, we have the view 1, and now with the view 1, click on execute this. You're going to have the link that we have in here. And you can see we are specifying the view 1 in here. We can also check from the v2, and here, when you check the header too, it has the same thing as you can see from this. Now, let's open a new tab in this, and now let's specify the v2. So this is v2, and now with v2, we are having the same data from the version 2, and now from version 3, let's specify version 3 like this, and now in that we are adding a parameter of range, and now let's specify maybe 100, or let's say 50. And now click on OK, and I can see we have the range in here, and now this is also version 3. So that's it. Now if you remove, let's try one. So with this, we want to remove the version. So API weather forecast, and you can see it is not working. So that is a way to integrate API version in your web API. We spoke about 2 approaches. That is using the query parameters or query string versioning, and also the URL version. I'm going to leave this source code on the GitHub, so check the video description and you can get it in there. I believe this is clear. Thank you so much for watching, and I'm going to catch up again. Until then, take care.